quite a few different types there. All work with the same principle, bellows. That one doesn't work. That one is 30 odd years old. It's an old copper one. The bellows have seen it, and so has the insert. I think that's one of the most important things about it, the insert, which separates the bellows, the air blowing in, from the combustible material. This one, you fill up your stuff in this and then insert it in. If you notice, it's got a pin here which stops it going right to the bottom, so the gases, when you bellow it, still blow up and in and cause the fire to rise. It's not my personal favourite. Nice big one for doing all the hives at once. Again, you'll see a slight hole in here. That's where the bellows work. There's a non-return valve in there that lets the air blow out but not get sucked back in. You can actually feel it. In fact, you can block it. If you ever hear that or don't hear this, you know you've got a blockage in here or the thing's not working. So always check it. Again, the insert. Insert's really important. It has to go this way. Inside here, you'll see where the bellows vent comes in. Make sure that doesn't impact these little things here. So drop that in. It never lands straight. It never lands straight. And it's a fiddly job. There, that's it. In now. It's not impeding the cold air coming in here to fire up the bellows. Again, this one, my particular favourite here. Again, bellows working perfectly. Big catchment area for the air to go in, and this most important thing here. And again, upside down, a wee jiggle, it normally gets into place. There, that's it. And this one I use for the out apiaries when I'm only doing 1 or 2 hives. Again, it has the grating inside. The bellows work perfectly. So, and of course, the Old Faithful. My trusty old friend. 30 odd years. So what am I going to use today? I think I'll use this one today. Firstly, keep all your burning materials in some sort of waterproof container. It really is quite surprising how damp newspapers and that get. So what I've got in here is just a normal newspaper, some silver birch bark, some trimmings from the forest floor, some cones. They don't burn very well, but it certainly gives us space for the air to go around. This, what do you call it, nut, beech nut, doesn't combust at all. Don't know why it's in there. I also got in here some sawdust, some hardwood sawdust, and there we go, another piece of, this is pellets, wood pellets for a wood fire. Now I know the quality of them, I know it's hardwood, and the extrusion process, they use vegetable oil to get it through the extruder, so it's perfectly okay. What else have I got in here? Oh, there's peanut kernels and some more wood pellet shavings. Absolutely excellent. You just have to make sure they don't come out the top. They don't, as you use the bellows, they pop out the top. So every single thing here is natural, all natural, apart from, unfortunately, the newspaper which I'm going to use to start the whole process. I start with a piece of paper. Now, one doesn't want to punch it up into a tiny little ball, because that's wrong. The air has to get round it. So I want it really, really loose. And where's my trusty lighter? Got a cover on it, filled it with gas. It's always there, it's always at the ready. And I start the whole process. I'm leaving a gap at the side here, and I'm putting it in, and I'm bellowing all the time. I see the flames down there. I've got plenty of time to do something. I'll maybe throw a cone in. I'll throw some other detritus in. I hear it burning. I feel it burning. I put my hand over it. I feel it burning. I put more in. Puffing all the time, and I can feel the heat. I can feel the heat there. In fact, I can almost hear the flames. I will gently push it down, because as you know, the paper will be burning from the bottom up. Don't be like some people I see who fill their actual smoker from the top and then light the paper at the top. We should all know by now that fire goes up the way, it can't go down the way. So please, 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 always start from the bottom and work your way up. And I'm patting it down because the newspaper is starting to get burnt. And the combustible material I've put in is now caught alight. I'll maybe put another air gap in, or two, and some more. Now, what I've got here will last half an hour, at least half an hour. Absolutely perfect. What I sometimes do is I put that on top to stop the stuff flying out. It works perfectly well, it doesn't smother anything. Or I get some grass. Could be anything. Sometimes I can lay it on top. Sometimes I'll put it in here. Then close things up. Now that smoker is cold. I'd happily put my hand there for long enough. Now, as this burns, and it will burn, it'll keep on burning because, as we know, fire rises, it will get hotter. How do I control these flames? I will lay it on its side. Just like that, for a minute, for two, as I'm going from one hive to the next, I will lay it on its side, then turn it up again, a few puffs, and we're there. I sometimes use rolled up silver birch bark. anything natural, not man-made. It can't be man-made, because that's just introducing so many different chemicals to it. Again, it won't get hot until it goes down halfway, and then you just top it up with some of this lovely natural material. I guarantee you this would last at least half an hour. And remember, lay it down. You'll see some smoke coming up here. You'll see some smoke coming out the top. In fact, an old beekeeper that taught me how to do it, is he would call this choking the smoker. If you can imagine, it's depleting the oxygen going up to the combustion chamber, so it's choking the flames. And again, we've got it. We'll come back to this one in half an hour. Well, it's now been 20 minutes later, and it's still going strong. A very, very slight increase in heat. Now, you can see it, the more I do it, the more I put oxygen into the chamber here, and the more smoke I get. And if I was to stop bellowing it, it dies down again. But the embers are still smouldering in here. Now, as you've seen, I used only natural materials in here. I don't mind getting this smoke, this natural smoke up my nose. In fact, it's almost pleasant. I think we've all experienced going outside or walking past a house that's burning peat or wood, or it's just an evocative smell having this natural materials as opposed to cardboard. Cardboard, I may rankle a few people when I say this, it's a lazy beekeeper's fuel. Yes, it smokes readily and it lights readily, and it has everything a beekeeper wants, except it has a little bit extra. It's got chemicals. It's got loads of chemicals. And if you go past this video and listen to my rant for the next 5 minutes, I'll explain what using the wrong fuel in a smoker does or can do to your lungs, to the bees, to the flavour of the honey, to the atmosphere, to your fellow beekeepers. It's not very nice. So have respect for yourself, the bees, other beekeepers, the environment, and the honey, because you're going to sell that honey and you don't want it tainted with chemicals that you've no idea about. If you want to look, and I'll explain it in a minute or two, what the craft process is, that's the KRAFT process, that's for making cardboard. They use many bleaches, many sulfides, they use chlorine, they use animal glues to stick it together, they use chemical glues to stick it together. And some people come along and they put it in their smoker and they puff away. This is not the same as putting an incinerator at the council or some fancy power station. This only barely gets it above a couple of 100 degrees. To dispose of cardboard correctly, you have to go a lot higher, 400 plus degrees, to kill or to destroy all the volatile chemicals. So, still very, very cold. Take the opportunity to listen to my little rant, and hopefully I'll persuade you in some small way to use all natural materials for yourself, the bees, the environment, the honey, your fellow beekeeper, everyone. Bye-bye. So I've just came back to the smoker after 35 minutes and it's still going strong. Still cool smoke, not hot to the touch, so it works. Natural materials. So I've just came back after doing all my inspection board counting, varroa, looking at the integrity of the hive, and this has been lying outside. Must be 45 minutes now. I'm going to turn it up, and there we go. 45 minutes since I did it, and it's still going strong. Slight increase in heat. Now I had it lying on its side. As I said earlier, it was choking the smoke, but it's still alight. Just turned it up a few puffs and it's still going. Perfect smoker. I would like to encourage the use of natural materials in beekeeping smokers. As a beekeeper, the health and well-being of the bees and the quality of honey produced are paramount. The choice of materials used in the smoker is critical, as it can impact both the bees and the beekeeper's health. This argument advocates for the exclusive use of natural materials in beekeeping smokers based on health, environmental and ethical considerations. The health risks of burning conventional materials. Let's look at the chemical emissions. Common materials like cardboard often produce through the process that involves hazardous chemicals. The craft process, that's KRAFT process, specifically introduces substances such as chlorine and other toxins that can be released when burnt, even at low temperatures. Toxic compounds. When cardboard is burned, the high temperatures can further alter these chemicals, creating compounds that are even more harmful. Research has shown that exposure to such combustion byproducts can pose respiratory risks and other health hazards to beekeepers. The impact on bees. The smoke produced from burning toxic materials can stress bees and it may affect their behaviour. For instance, harmful compounds could lead to impaired navigation, reduced foraging efficiency and potentially impact hive health. For millions of years, evolution has attuned the chemical receptors on the bee's antenna to the chemicals given off by burning grass, wood and other natural materials. Should we expose ourselves and bees to non-natural compounds? Let's look at some of the environmental considerations. Sustainability. Natural materials such as pine needles, dried leaves or untreated wood shavings are more eco-friendly. Using these materials minimises the environmental impact associated with the production and disposal of synthetic or chemically treated materials. Let's look at the carbon footprint. Burning natural materials contributes to the carbon cycle without introducing harmful chemicals into the atmosphere. In contrast, burning processed materials like cardboard can release volatile organic compounds known as VOCs and other pollutants. We have an ethical responsibility to promote bee welfare. Bees play an essential role in our ecosystem and food production. By minimising stress and the potential harm from smoking practices, beekeepers uphold their ethical responsibility towards bee welfare. Natural smoking materials align with sustainable beekeeping practices that prioritise the health of bee populations. Education and awareness. By advocating the use of natural materials, beekeepers can lead by example in promoting environmentally friendly practices within the beekeeping community. This shift not only benefits individual beekeepers, but also contributes to the overall health of bee populations and the environment. Let's look at the practical benefits. The efficiency of natural materials. Many natural materials produce a reliable and consistent smoke. They often have additional benefits, such as easy availability, lower cost, and no need for processing or treatment. The flavour and quality of honey. Having just done a honey sommelier course in Edinburgh this year, I totally understand how smoke can impart a faint taste to the honey. So using natural materials helps to ensure that smoke does not impart or minimises even, any undesirable flavours or qualities to the honey, maintaining its purity and taste. The conclusion. In summary, using only natural materials in beekeeping smokers is not just a personal preference, but a responsible and health-conscious choice that benefits beekeepers, bees and the environment. By making informed choices about what we burn, we can enhance the sustainability of our practices and contribute positively to the ecosystem. Therefore, it is in the best interest of all stakeholders to prioritise and advocate for the exclusive use of natural materials in our beekeeping endeavours.